This morning I am so excited because look at it. It is a foggy morning in Vermont, and that's pretty rare in the winter. And I've been really wanting to use fog as part of my landscape photography compositions. And so come with me as we explore Vermont today and take photographs of the fog. I'm getting excited! Gotta bring the microspikes, it's slippery out here. Whoop, and I'm sliding off the road. Whew, all right. We're in a bit of a thaw. It's about, 43 degrees. We have a lot of snow on the ground, but it's obviously melting pretty rapidly, which is why we have the fog. You know, fog, I haven't done a lot of fog photography, so I'm kind of excited to see what we learned today. And we are stuck in traffic, which almost never happens in Vermont. So I'm looking for like a really cool tree or a fence that's leading off into the distance. You know, the fog can help create that perspective. You can use fog as an interesting way to isolate a subject. It can create mood, it can create interesting contrast. It can also make some really cool black and white photos. Anyway, I saw this tree from the road and I thought it would be a cool composition. You know, it's isolated, there are not a lot of distractions around it. The fog, the snow, I thought, you know, created a really cool composition. The downside is that I did not notice these power lines that are in the shot. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you're looking for compositions, is you want to eliminate distractions as much as possible. I think I'll take the shot anyway because I'm already here and we might be able to get rid of it in post. And I might, you know, also just wander around and see if I can get a different perspective on the tree. The power lines, they're now behind on this side of the tree, and so I don't have them in my composition, but I don't really like this composition as much because of these trees over here. Now it's not so isolated. It doesn't have such a clear white background. So I think I'll go back to where I was, take the perspective from that way, and then try to just clone out the power lines in post. Okay, so I've got the 24-70 on here. I've got it at about 55 millimeter focal length, which helps me isolate the tree. I didn't want to get these footsteps in here. I thought that was a little bit of a distraction. So I am using live view. Actually, come here. Okay, so here are my settings. So first of all, I decided to go with manual focus. I've got vibration reduction off because I've got this on a tripod. You can see my composition here. I've got the ground sort of set in the lower quarter of the picture. And so the tree is obviously the subject. I've got my histogram pulled up here to make sure that I'm not losing anything in the shadows or clipping anything out of the highlights. I decided to use F14 because I am trying to get the whole tree in focus and I don't really want to do any focus stacking of tree branches. That would take forever. And I'm at 1/25 of a second to get the correct exposure. Now sometimes your camera's metering system might underexpose a composition like this, and so you can always play around with the exposure compensation to bring out the shadows or bring out the highlights a little bit more. The other thing I like to do is obviously check my focus, and I can do that by zooming in and scrolling around with my wheel there, and I manually adjust it with the focus ring. Make sure I have all those little tiny branches and whatnot in focus, and so it looks pretty good right there. So I've been driving around for a little while and the fog actually has lifted, at least in this part of the state. It's just kind of a cloudy, gray, kind of dreary day, which is a little too bad. But that means we have some challenges to find some good compositions, and those are always good to have to sort of stretch your abilities. So right now I'm at the Victory Basin Wildlife Management Area. I've poked around this area before and have found some nice trails to hike, and the woods are just really beautiful. And there's also, of course, the Moose River, which flows right in the middle of the Victory Basin area. And it's not a huge river, but it is rapidly moving. There's some rapids and some little tiny waterfalls. So I'm not really sure what we'll find, but we will probably be able to get some compositions out of that. As you've heard me say in other tutorials, when you're photographing water, it's best to use a circular polarizing filter. I'm going to try to show you what I mean by using a polarizer. So I have it on, but I don't have it polarized just yet. And so as I spin it, you should see the water darken down a little bit. You see the difference there? So spin it back. This is unpolarized and polarized. So we are now at Lake Willoughby in Vermont. It has this huge basin with these big cliffs on either side of the lake. It's really cool. As you can see, the fog is gone. It's a really gray day. It's actually pretty bleak and kind of gross. But you know, I committed to being out today. I'm here, and that's sort of just the way landscape photography can be. You just don't really know what you're going to get when you set out to do some photography. So I'm just going to mosey around. There's a couple trails that we might explore and see what we can get. Okay, so we have a little bit of the lake here has started to thaw, you know, with the warmer temperatures that we're having. And there's a little stream that's coming in here, and these rocks are thawed out, and I thought they would make some good foreground elements, and then try to use a very wide angle to get the big basin. Just in the course of about 10 or so minutes, it started to snow, and it's a bit chilly, it's a bit windy, but it did bring in these really cool fast-moving clouds, as you can see here. So we might be able to get some interesting compositions with these clouds. One thing I want to talk about is when you're out here shooting in snow or wet conditions, you really got to make sure you watch your lens. Just before I snap the shutter, I have to make sure that I wipe it off with this, you know, lens cloth. You can also use a microfiber cloth. Another trick that I do sometimes is I'll take a microfiber cloth and I'll just drape it over the front of my camera as I'm, you know, getting out filters or recomposing or whatever. So it's just another tip. Well, I don't know if you can see this, but that was short-lived. You can't even see the mountains now. Isn't that amazing? So I'm going to move on because I'm freezing and also because the wind is blowing the snow right into the lens, and so I can't even, you know, take the photo fast enough before the lens gets dirty. This is one thing that's pretty fun about Vermont, and that is that the weather changes so fast. There's a saying that if you don't like the weather, just wait a minute. And you know, this morning it started off in the 40s. It was warm, it was foggy. That's why we went out. Was the whole point of today was to take pictures of fog, and now we're in a total snowstorm, and it's really cold and windy. So we'll see if it brightens up anymore today. Right. Well, guys, it snowed for the rest of the day, sort of on and off. It was pretty cloudy and blustery, and I didn't really have a lot of other opportunities to take photographs. So all in all, I would say it was a good day. Certainly fun to be out there with you guys. If you like this video, I'd really love it if you hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Make sure to check me out on Instagram. Feel free to contact me with questions, and thanks a lot for tuning in.